Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Gauranga, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Gaura, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari
Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari
Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana.
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Radha Madhava Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Giriraj Maharaj, Giriraj Maharaj,
Giriraj Maharaj, Jaya Giriraj Maharaj, Jaya Giriraj Maharaj, Giriraj Maharaj, Giriraj Maharaj, Jaya Giriraj Maharaj.
Jaya Parama Karuna, Jaya Nitai Gora Chandra, Jaya Parama Karuna, Jaya Nitai Gora Chandra.
Jaya Parama Karuna Nitai Gaura Chandra, Jaya Parama Karuna Nitai Gaura.
Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Shri Radhe.
Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Shri Radhe.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Shri Giri Govardhan ki jai. So Hare Krishna, we want to welcome all the devotees to our Govardhan Puja program at Hare Krishna Study Center. So today is a very auspicious day already. It's a month of auspiciousness, being in the month of Kartik or Damodar. That alone is so much auspiciousness is there, but it is even more auspicious being the Govardhan Puja celebration today. So this morning we'll be hearing, as part of our program, we'll be hearing a very special presentation on the Govardhan Leela, and specifically some lessons that we can draw from the Govardhan pastime. I'm sure many devotees, we have heard this pastime so many times, but then what is the take home for me? You know, how can I apply that in my own Krishna consciousness? So for today, we'll be hearing this beautiful pastime and various lessons from His Grace Shanta Vigraha Prabhu. So Shanta Vigraha Prabhu is one of our own, being from the Caribbean yatra, specifically from our ISKCON Trinidad. So Shanta Vigraha Prabhu, as many of you know, he is a teacher by profession, and of recent times he has been serving in various capacities. Like, for instance, he serves as part of the CIHE, now you know as Caribbean Institute of Higher Education. He's a lecturer there and part of the board of directors as well. So we are very happy to have Prabhuji with us this morning, as he's going to, you know, share with us, take us into the nectarian pastime of Krishna, specifically this Govardhan Leela. So Shanta Vigraha Prabhu, we do hope you can hear us. Welcome to our program on Zoom, and also for those of you who are joining on other platforms, Facebook Live, YouTube, and for those of you who are here physically at the temple. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Over to you. Shanta Prabhu, please give us a minute. We are trying to sort out some technical areas.
Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Today is an extremely wonderful day. I consider myself very fortunate to be part of it remotely. It's very interesting. I was just thinking about this morning, last year. I thought that one of the things I would do for Kartik was sort of, give a deeper meditation on the Damodar Lila. This was for last year. And that desire was fulfilled in that I was able to share a 4-day series of lectures on the Damodar Lila with the Guyanese devotees who hosted it, as well as other devotees who joined in. And this year I thought I wanted to do some meditation more on the Govardhan Lila. And just right when I was thinking that, Sachi messaged me and asked if I would give a class on Govardhan Puja Day with the devotees in Guyana. So I found that to be quite remarkable, in that Giriraj often reciprocates with the desires of his devotees, or those, as in my case, who are trying to take shelter of Giriraj. The Govardhan Puja pastime is one of the most beautiful pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It takes place when Krishna is about 7 years old. And what I'll do is not go through the details of the pastime as we would ordinarily do. The class is just about 1 hour, but I hope to finish significantly before and open up for some discussion. But what I thought I'd do is share some lessons that I had been meditating on in going over this pastime over the last few weeks. Some thoughts that sort of jumped out at me. So the setting of the pastime is that Krishna had just interacted with the Yajnik Brahmanas in that village and given profuse mercy to their wives. Now in that village itself, Krishna saw that his father and other members of his family and other members of the residents of Vrindavan were engaged in so much different preparation. So Krishna went over and began to inquire from his father, what is going on here? What are you doing? He saw they were preparing for some kind of worship. And so he began to question them. Is this just a tradition? Does it have some basis in Shastra? What is the purpose of this function you are performing? Please tell me. I am not an outsider. I am your own family member. There should be no secrets within the family. And Nanda Maharaj at first didn't pay any attention to Krishna, but Krishna insisted. And it's interesting that the line of questioning that Krishna was, what is the significance of these arrangements that you are making, my dear father? What is the purpose of it? What is the significance of it? What is the purpose of it? Is it based in scripture? Is it just a tradition? I want to know more about it. Now, Krishna could understand that Indra had become a bit puffed up. He had become a bit swollen by pride of occupying a position. And as it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. To destroy the enemies of Indra, Krishna appears in so many different ways. Now, if we look at Bhagavatam, then Krishna is always intervening in Indra's affairs. In the 10th canto, Krishna intervenes in this Govardhan Lila. Later on, when Krishna is in Dwaraka, Indra will have sort of a relapse of consciousness and try to fight with Krishna because Krishna took the Parijata flower from his garden. And so Indra often has relapses. In the Bhagavatam itself, there are so many instances when Krishna has to make arrangements for Indra's correction. And oftentimes, they are not from any external demons. The majority of demons that Indra becomes afflicted by are demons that occur within. Now, if we examine our own selves, most of the issues we have are not issues that arise from any external circumstances. Most of the issues that we have arise from our own internal struggles, our own mental difficulties that we have when faced with the various situations, whether it be stress, whether it be how we respond to persons who would have been inimical towards us, how we respond to persons who are favorable towards us. We become affected when there's some negative situation that is taking place in our lives. Our car breaks down. There are difficulties in dealing with our marriage. There are difficulties in dealing with children. How do we behave in those circumstances are all a function of our internal groundedness. How are we when dealing with others? Do we expect to be the center of everybody's focus, whether positively or negatively? How are we affected when we realize that we are not the center of everybody's focus? How do we respond to that? These are all internal functions. Do we have the desire to be adored by others? Do we have the desire to be worshipped by others? How do we feel when we get the sense that we are not respected? These are all internal struggles. And this is an example, this Govardhan Puja is of an internal struggle that Indra had. He had become full of pride. And Krishna, Indrari Vyakulam, Indra Adi, he wants to destroy the enemies of Indra. And therefore, in this Govardhan Leela, Krishna wants to destroy the enemy of Indra's pride. So by carefully studying one of the benedictions of studying this Govardhan Leela very carefully, is that we can pray that just as Krishna destroyed Indra's pride, that our pride will also be smashed. That we can be humbled just as Indra became humbled, and hopefully not have a relapse like Indra would have later on. You know? But we can pray that our pride also be smashed. So Krishna is orchestrating this whole, he knows where to poke Indra. He knows what to say to incite this in Indra, that it comes out. You know, when we're dealing with something, we don't want to sweep it under the carpet. Oftentimes when we're cleaning our room, then it may be very easy. We just put something in a corner, You know, if we're cleaning a house and we're not sure what to do with something, then oftentimes there's this one corner of the house, one corner of the room, we just put the thing, just put it in that spot. And eventually, after some time of maybe years or maybe months of just putting things in that corner, right? When we open that room or we go into that place, and that place is worse than everything we had been cleaning before we started to clean. Now picture when we are dealing with emotions, when we are dealing with unresolved feelings, we just bury it. And we think we've dealt with it, but it has to come out. And Krishna, he wants that these things come out, that they could be ventilated in a very healthy way, that Indra could hopefully become cured of this disease that he has. He doesn't want Indra just to bury it or tolerate it for some time and think that it goes away because it doesn't come up for some time. He wants that it actually becomes cured. And therefore Krishna is enacting, he's inciting Indra's pride by sticking a dagger directly into the heart of the matter. And so he's speaking to his father, that, you know, tell me what is the situation here. And one of the other points I took from this is for growth to take place, we have to sometimes be ready to relinquish old traditions if they are not soundly based. We should not simply do something because this is the way we've done it for years. We have to be open that even though we've been doing it for years, we may not have been doing it the right way for many years. So Krishna is asking, what is the basis? We have to question the things we are doing if they are not giving the result that we expect. For example, Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the West, he did things that were very revolutionary. He didn't hold on to certain traditions of the Indian way of doing things, or the way Gaudiya Vaishnavism was practiced in India. He broke that mold. For example, women were not allowed to live in the temples. But Srila Prabhupada said, what can I do? They have come. They were already living outside. And therefore he established a woman's ashram in the temple, that woman's needs should be taken care of. That's a huge change. That's a huge change. I know what one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers said, that one of the reasons that Srila Prabhupada was able to be successful and we were not able to be successful, he said, because I am too much of an orthodox Brahmana. I come from that culture. I can't remember who it was. He said, because I am so accustomed to the rigidity of the Brahminical culture, it was very difficult for me to break free of that. And that was one of the reasons that I could not get success as Srila Prabhupada got success. That he went beyond the external trappings of the culture and went to the heart of what it is meant to incite or instill in the practitioner, which is to surrender to Krishna. And oftentimes, we have to be ready that sometimes, if the way we are doing something traditionally is not bringing results, we have to be brave enough and bold enough to question that. Should I do it a different way? If I change, am I changing a principle or am I changing a detail? And we all have to examine that sometimes in our own lives and things that we may be doing in our jobs, in the way we deal with situations in our family, in the way we deal with situations with our children. The situation that existed 15 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago is different today than it was then. So it stands to reason that oftentimes the way things were done then may not be easily translated into today's context. And so Krishna is questioning his father as to why. What is the reason that this is being done? And Nanda Maharaj said, this is what we've been doing for so many years. We worship Indra. Why do you worship Indra? He gives us rains. We need rain to get grass and crops and so many things to take care of our livelihood. And therefore we do it. Krishna said, what is the point of that? Just offering a bribe to Indra? Karma is the most important thing. You have to do your work and you get results. You see Indra, he's not such an intelligent person. The same rain that falls here also falls over the ocean when nobody needs it. What is the point of that? And Krishna speaks a type of philosophy called karma mimamsa. And Nanda Maharaj, he does not become convinced by this philosophy that Krishna is speaking. Rather, he becomes convinced because Krishna says, this is what I want. I would like you to forget this Indra Puja and do Govardhan Puja. Nanda Maharaj tries to protest. He said, that is all right, Lala. Let us do Indra Puja today, and then we'll make separate arrangements for Govardhan Puja. Krishna said, Govardhan gives us everything we need, not Indra. Have you seen Indra? You ever seen Indra come around here? But Govardhan is here. And he gives so much grass and he gives so much nourishment to our lifestyle. We should worship Govardhan. So Narmada said, no, we'll worship Govardhan tomorrow. We'll make a separate festival for Govardhan. And then Krishna says, no, not a separate festival. I want you to take the same arrangements that you were going to worship Govardhan, and I want you to worship Giriraj. Forget Indra. Forget Indra. Worship. Now Krishna is speaking like this because he wants to get a reaction from Indra so he can correct that behavior. It is not necessarily that if we want to change a tradition, that we have to go about it the same way. Krishna is doing this because of his position and because of his relationship. When we have to effect a change in something that has been there for many, many years, we have to study the situation very carefully and not just try as Krishna is doing. Krishna is able to do this because of his relationship with Indra and because of his relationship with the Brajavasis. And oftentimes, even though something may need to be changed, how we go about making that change has to be considered very carefully. Because in making the change, we don't want to lose the people who have to be involved in the change. We want people to buy into the change. We want people to see the value of it. And therefore, we have to be very careful how we do it. That is a function of our position. And more so, it is a function of our relationship with the persons who may be involved. How much are they bought into the new idea? How much are they willing to participate in seeing this change take place? So Krishna, he's able to do this, one, because of his position, and two, because of his relationship, and three, because he has full cooperation of the residents of Vrindavan. Oftentimes, if there isn't full cooperation, it's very difficult to effect change. And oftentimes, we may have seen that somebody in, let's say, in management, he wants to effect a change. But the persons who are directly affected by the change don't want the change. And there sometimes is discord or disunity as a result of that. So you have to be very careful how change is to be affected. I remember one time, some persons had some consideration of what should be in the kirtan and what shouldn't be in particular kirtan regarding a particular drum, and we were having a discussion. So, and they asked me if I could address it. So I said, but I am not known to be a kirtan person. You know, get the kirtan people to buy in through your relationship with them. And if the kirtan people buy in, you know, then it's very easy to do. Otherwise, you'll just keep banging your head against the wall and just creating disunity. And it actually happened. It actually happened that so many people became, their feelings felt hurt as a result of the way that they tried to implement this change in a tradition that had came in. That's the actual story. So Krishna, because of his relationship, because of his position, and because he got the Brajabasis to buy in to his proposal, he could effect that change. He could effect that change. What happened as a result of the change? There was chaos. There was chaos. Indra, the dagger was stuck into the heart of his pride. And Indra retaliated. Imagine. I'll kill everybody. I'll drown the whole of Vrindavan for their impudence, listening to this boy Krishna who is speaking as if he's a pundit. But I will show him. I will show all of them. Now, was it really such a big thing? One little village in Vrindavan, the whole of India possibly would have been worshipping Indra. But he's seeing this little village in Vrindavan. They decide to not worship him and worship instead this hill, Govardhan. Look at the reaction that Indra, the vitriol with which Indra reacted to his pride being hurt. Is it comparable to the act that was perpetrated on him? So one question we can ask ourselves, how do we react when we feel our pride being hurt? We have to take some time. Don't act immediately. Don't respond like Indra is responding. We have to take some time. Take a time out. Take a few deep breaths. Consult somebody. Consult the person who's there. Why are you doing this? We had this arrangement. You know, why are you taking this step? I was looking forward to this. You could have consulted with me before. We could have come to a mutual agreement. You know, how do we respond to situations? Is our response exaggerated? Is our response warranted? Is our response the one that is required at that particular moment, at that particular time? Was Indra's response warranted? Of course not. It wasn't warranted. And what did Indra do? He called for all these Samvartika clouds. Clouds which are used to destroy the universe. He wanted to destroy Vrindavan. And then this rain started to fall after they were worshipping Govardhan. They were worshipping Govardhan. And this rain started to fall down. So what was the fault of the Brajabasis? They listened to Krishna. That was their only fault. Is that a fault? To Indra it was, but to the Brajabasis, that was their greatest achievement. That they would act simply Krishya Vachanam Tava, as Krishna likes. Krishna, you like us not to worship Indra, and you like us to worship Giriraj? Okay, Krishna, we'll do it because you like it. This is their relationship with Krishna. They will do it because Krishna likes it that way. And they did it out of affection. Out of affection. What was the result of that affection? They almost lost their lives. Indra wanted them dead. Or what did they do? Did they say, Krishna, you foolish boy, we listened to you and just see all these problems we had. Just see, our cows might die, our homes would be flooded out, all our food would be destroyed, our livelihood would be destroyed, our homes would be destroyed, our families might be destroyed because we may die, all because we listened to you. Let us go back to previously what we were doing and try to appease Indra. Did the Brajabasis do that? No. Krishna, just see what has happened. What will we do? And Krishna said, okay, you have worshipped Govardhan, then Govardhan will help. Let us go below Govardhan. And Krishna lifted up the hill. And I find this very significant in that sometimes, and this is for practicing devotees, when we take to Krishna consciousness, sometimes it seems that our problems increase rather than decrease. When we try to do the right thing, sometimes we see that it is more difficult. There's more backlash from doing the right thing, even in the right way, in the right mood, than from doing the wrong thing. What did the Brajabasis do? They did the right thing. It pleased Krishna. What was the result? Imminent destruction. But there's a saying that anything, karma or reaction, can bring us to, Krishna can take us through. I heard this from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, that anything, karma or reaction, can bring us to, Krishna can take us through. In the course of our lives, the one constant that there will always be is difficulties. And sometimes it may seem that these difficulties come as a result of our intention in Krishna consciousness. Don't be distracted by it. The entirety of Srimad Bhagavatam is the history of devotees who had difficulties and turned to Krishna despite having difficulties. When the choice to be Krishna conscious was the hard choice to make, but it was the right choice to make. Look at Prahlad Maharaj. He was killed for his choice to be Krishna conscious. Look at Narad Muni. His mother was killed when he was just a child. Look at the Pandavas. Draupadi's sons were assassinated, viciously murdered. Then after that, the grandchild was almost killed as well, Parikshit Maharaj, within the womb by a Brahmastra weapon. Then later on, he was actually cursed to die. How did they respond? How do Krishna's devotees respond when they are faced with difficult situations? Ashlishava padaratam pinashtumam. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He's completely free to do anything and everything, and he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. So the Brajabasis, in the face of imminent danger, of imminent death, of calamitous destruction of the entire way of life, of their lives even, they were just happy to be in Krishna's company. And even though there was destruction or apparent or the attempt at destruction taking place around them, that did not enter into them. And we have to be very careful. We should not let situations that are seemingly disastrous taking place around us to enter within us. They were happy just to be in each other's company in Krishna consciousness. That doesn't mean that we don't try to address the problem, but we should not let the problem enter within our consciousness and hamper our relationships with each other and with Krishna. And the Brajabasis are demonstrating that. It was like a festival. The problem was going on. They tried to solve the problem. They took it to Krishna. Krishna was solving the problem, but they did not let it enter into their consciousness. They were not problem conscious. They were Krishna conscious. And oftentimes when faced with difficulties, we should not lose sight of the bigger picture. Oftentimes, when we focus on problems, we lose sight of solutions. Oftentimes, when we focus on what we cannot do, we lose sight of the things that we can do. Therefore, a devotee is the ultimate opportunist. In the biggest problem, he will find a way to forge through. Just like Vaisheshika Prabhu last year in the midst of the pandemic, he had the Bhagavatam Bhadra Purnima, and they were wondering how will they distribute so many Bhagavatams, how they will distribute so many books because of lockdown and so many things. And they launched the Bhadra Purnima, and they exceeded all targets that they had set. Even if they made a record. I know what Vaisheshika Prabhu said. He said one should never let a good pandemic go to waste, or a good disaster go to waste. And you look at it, like a lot of people, they have this idea that this COVID-19 thing is a conspiracy, that people are just profiting off of it. But that is what businesses do. When rain is falling, the man who's selling umbrella, he is glad because people buy umbrellas. So if there's some problem and I could provide some solution, why not take advantage of the opportunity? So similarly, when we have difficulties that may even seem to have come as a result of the execution of Krishna consciousness, never lose sight of the ultimate purpose, and don't lose sight of the things that we can do in the midst of the things that we cannot do. What's an example? This COVID-19 period, right? We couldn't have any outside programs. And everybody was thinking, what the hell would go on now? And how many people have completed Bhakti Shastri during COVID-19? How many people have engaged in so many sanghas online during COVID-19? How many people have engaged in group Bhagavatam reading during COVID-19? How many people have engaged in so many international sanghas? How many international speakers have visited Guyana during COVID-19 via Zoom and via, so many online platforms? You could imagine what effort it would take just to arrange programs to bring somebody in from a country and their needs. Of course, we lose that opportunity for that type of service, the infrastructural and the logistical needs of when somebody visits. We lose the benefit of that service. But so many people, just like when Bhakti Brihad Bhagavat Maharaj visits Guyana, then people from Trinidad can't benefit from that. Last year for Radha Ashtami, so many people were able to benefit. He sat in Mauritius, gave Radha Ashtami class to devotees in Guyana, and I sat right in this chair here and listened to that Radha Ashtami class from Trinidad. Look at the benefit. If we were focused on only this COVID-19 business, then we would have missed that opportunity to increase the level of our sanghas. So therefore, when there's difficulties, don't focus so much on the difficulties, but focus on the opportunities. And the Brajabasis, what was the opportunity? What was the problem that they were facing? Yes, there was this destruction taking place. But during the day, the cowherd boys would get to spend all day with Krishna tending the cows. But the gopis would be in separation. They would only have a little time. Sometimes afternoon time, when the cowherd boys would take rest, Krishna would run away to go to meet with the gopis. Nanda Maharaj and Madheshwara would have little time to be with Krishna in the morning when they prepare him for going out. In the evening, when he comes back, but then Krishna would go to bed. And the gopis would be in separation. Krishna would leave at night and go to meet the other gopis in a secret place, in different pastime places. So all of these persons would have the misfortune of not having full association and darshan of Krishna. That was a problem for them. It was a problem. But for 7 days and 7 nights, amidst all these destructive forces that were abounding around them, they had the festival of having darshan of Krishna and pastimes with Krishna for 7 days and 7 nights uninterrupted. The gopis, the parents of Krishna, the elder gopis and gopas, Krishna's friends, and all the different animals of Vrindavan, all below Govardhan hill. So one of the things I like to think of Govardhan is that one place or that one person in Vrindavan that brings Krishna together with his devotees. It is the one place where all of Krishna's devotees can find shelter, at the feet of Giriraj Govardhan. I like to meditate on Govardhan Leela in that way. And persons may have differences. Nanda Maharaj and Madhesha think that Krishna should be served in this way. The Gopas, they think Krishna should be enjoying in this way. The Gopis think he should enjoy in this way. Krishna should be doing this. Krishna should be dressed like this. And there may be so many differences of opinion. But on the Giriraj, everybody agrees that whatever differences of opinion we have, that it should all be for Krishna's pleasure. So I like to think of Govardhan Puja in that way. And so back to that point I was making, that despite there being problems, don't focus on the problem, rather focus on how we can use the difficulties as opportunities, as the Brajabasis did, to enjoy with Krishna and serve Krishna by engaging with pastimes with him for 7 days uninterruptedly. And so after this thing takes place, everybody goes back to their home and the rain stops. Indra is completely dejected. The Samvartaka clouds, they started up, this size, and then they came down to this size. I was thinking that if I ever had to do a drama on Govardhan Leela, like I would have 2 different actors to play the Samvartaka clouds. Like in the first instance, when they were attacking the Brajabasis and Giriraj Govardhan, I would have a very big devotee, like a huge sized devotee, big body, attacking Govardhan. And then when they became depleted in the next scene, when they go to report to Indra that they were a failure, I would have, a very skinny devotee play the Samvartaka clouds after they tried to destroy Vrindavan, and they were completely exhausted and had nothing left in them. And maybe, Sachi could play that role. Very slim build. I might have to play the Samvartaka clouds during this lockdown. So much prasadam. So everything sort of went back to normal. And Indra, he realized that, I made a blunder. And he felt so embarrassed. He felt so ashamed. And so he went to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma said, no. Don't get me involved in your nonsense. You see, you try to sort this out. And so he went to Surabhi. Krishna is very affectionate to the cows. So Indra took the cow. And not oftentimes, every one of us at some point in time will offend another devotee. And when I speak about offend, I'm not speaking about the generic Vaishnava aparad. But we may do something that will definitely hurt another devotee. And Indra, recognizing what he had done to hurt another devotee, oftentimes that guilt and that shame and that feeling that we get, we are not able to approach that devotee directly whom we have hurt. And therefore, we can approach through another devotee who has a relationship with that person. We can express our heart to somebody who has a relationship with the person we have hurt. That, such and such, I've hurt this person. I feel so bad. I don't know how to approach him. Can you help me? Can you help me? And that person, because they want to see relationships prosper, if they're a mature person, they said, yes, let's go together to that person. I'll go with you. Don't worry. I'll go with you. And you go and you can approach the offended party through somebody who is dear to them. And if that person is feeling extremely hurt because it is coming through one of somebody who is dear to them, with whom they have a relationship, they may be more open to hearing your apology. And Indra, he offers his apology to Krishna. But it's interesting how Krishna did it. Krishna left his home after some time. There was a light, gentle sprinkle. And Krishna wanted to go and see if Govardhan was affected by the damage of all these lightning and so many things that Indra was unleashing on his dear devotee Giriraj. But Krishna actually knew that Indra would come. It's interesting. He knew that Indra would come, but he didn't want anyone else to be there. He wanted to deal with Indra in private. And so Indra came with Surabhi, mother cow, and through Surabhi, he offered his petition to Krishna. What did Krishna do? Krishna forgave him. Krishna allowed him to keep his service. And Krishna sent him back. Now, there's two things I'd like to say about this. From Krishna's side, Krishna could have destroyed Indra, isn't it? But Krishna, rather than destroy Indra, Krishna just destroyed his pride. He dealt with the issue and not the person. And he didn't do it in such a way that that person's position would be compromised. He didn't make a public spectacle in front of all the Brajabasis. Just see this fool, how he has to come dragging his head in the mud now. Before, see how mighty he was? Look at him now. I have cut him down to size. See how gentle Krishna dealt with Indra. Not because somebody does something wrong, it gives us the right to humiliate them. We should deal with the behavior and not the person. And we should deal with the person in such a way that they remain favorable and enthusiastic. But not that their behavior should be destroyed, but the person should not be destroyed so much that they want to leave the company of devotees. That they feel embarrassed and they feel hurt. But rather, the behavior should be dealt with, not the person. And we have to be careful also. Does every mistake a person make warrant that they be kicked out of a service that they would have been doing for many, many years? We have to be very careful. How is the correction that we are giving to this person helping them ultimately deal with their difficulties that would have led them to this particular mistake in the first place? We have to be very careful when dealing with persons who would have committed errors in the execution of their service. We have to be very tactful. Sometimes, as the person who may be in charge, we may not necessarily have the relationship that warrants us dealing with them. But just as Indra sought the shelter of a devotee to come to offer his apology to Krishna, sometimes as the person who is in charge, we may also have to go through a devotee to deal with that other person. We have to be very intelligent and circumspect when dealing with particular behaviors, that the person is not destroyed, but the behavior has to be addressed. The behavior must be addressed, but it must be addressed in such a way that the person benefits and the relationship isn't destroyed as far as possible. And so Krishna, he exhibits that skill in dealing with Indra. that he listens to Indra. And Krishna is not that Krishna is a pushover. When Krishna is offering the prayers, Krishna isn't looking at him. He's playing with some shrubs in Govardhan. He's letting him know that he did something wrong, but he's doing it in private. He's not publicly embarrassing Indra. He's not publicly doing it. But Indra knows that I did something wrong. But from the other side, why would Indra go on in future to make another mistake? One of the possible reasons for that is Indra came to Krishna not out of complete recognition that I did something wrong and I should change. Indra came because he was fearful of punishment. So he was trying to prevent the immediate reaction. He was not asking for forgiveness because he wanted to become corrected. He wanted to become reformed necessarily. He just wanted that things be smoothed over right now so they could get back on talking terms. And this is a very important lesson. From our side, when we do something wrong, don't just, like somebody becomes offended. Let's say, this is the example that comes to head. And they, let's say, drop their service. And we go try to smooth things over, not because we want the person to be better situated, just because we need them to come back and fill a service. And executing that is very difficult. Executing that is very difficult because ultimately we want both. We want both for them to come back and do their service, but also we want them to be in a better place. So we have to be very tactful. And I think ultimately we have to always act for the other person's best interest, not for immediate interest. And in the short term, it may seem as a loss, but in the long term, that person would grow stronger. When they actually come back, they will come back with less chance of leaving, of having the same difficulties which would have brought them down that road in the first place. So these were some lessons just that came out to me when reading this pastime over the last few weeks, and I thought I would share them with you. And at this point in time, I would stop, and there's about 12 13 more minutes. If there's any discussion, if there's any questions that anybody would like to ask, then we could have that now.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shanta Vigraha Prabhu, for such a nice presentation. We highlighted different aspects of this pastime and what we can, take home, what lessons we can learn from the different scenes of the pastime. So, are there devotees who would like to share or maybe ask a question to Prabhuji?
I think even if somebody would like to share some aspect of the pastime that they find very nice, they could also share something with us also.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. It was such a wonderful, refreshing class. I don't know how many times I've heard this story, but I've never thought or ever heard such a description of this pastime before. And the points you made were very, very wonderful. And then you concluded by saying these are just some of the points. I wonder what are all of the points that you wanted to bring out. So coming back to the first point you made about bringing out the faults and actually dealing with them, not just putting them in the corner of the room. And there's this word, when we were doing Bhakti Shastri and Nectar of Instruction, the first verse, the one word actually stood out to me in the translation, that one should tolerate the urges. So that was very interesting for me. So my question is that sometimes the fault comes out. As you said, Krishna wanted to pick at that fault for Indra. Sometimes the fault comes out. For instance, we may feel a certain way. We may feel like, for instance, I may be playing the mridanga. suddenly I see a bunch of people here and want to play some fancy beats, to show off my prowess, my mridanga prowess. But many times we just ignore that and just push it aside. Is that a proper way of dealing with? How do we deal with it? How do we actually tolerate?
Well, one thing I would say is not necessarily you want to tolerate a fault, that you want to deal with it. Like when we speak about tolerance, it is in regard to particular urges that we have. And specifically, that example you were given from Nectar of Instruction was the urge to speak in a certain way, the urge of the tongue, the belly, the genitals, anger, the mind's demands, and so on. Excuse me. So one way I think that is very useful is not focus on the fault, but focus on the solution. So for example, like in that specific example you gave, that you said sometimes when playing mridanga, and I would extend it even to giving class, me sitting on the hot seat now, that sometimes you feel that you want to say something that would be very impressive, something that would impress the devotees, that, I never heard this before, look how much he knows, that he could bring out all these things. I think that one thing that has helped me, and not has helped me, but is helping me, because I also have the same problem, that the need to be recognized, or wanting to be recognized. I find it was very therapeutic to focus on why am I doing this in the first place? Am I doing this to attract others? Or am I doing this to attract Krishna? Am I doing this to serve myself? Or am I doing this to give pleasure to Krishna's devotees ultimately? Or should I say something nice that devotees may have forgotten or never heard before, because I want to be recognized as the person who said it? Or am I doing it to give them pleasure in terms of hearing it? In other words, am I acting as Krishna's instrument? Or is Bhagavatam becoming my instrument? Am I the instrument in your example? Am I being used by Balaram to enhance Krishna's kirtan? Or am I using Balaram to enhance my recognition in the community of devotees? Like that. Because Balaram is Mridanga. Mridanga is Balaram, right? So whatever we do, I find it very useful for myself. Why am I doing it? Like, sometimes it may be reminding myself of why am I doing it, because those thoughts naturally come up from time to time. So how do we deal with it? That we always try to maintain the mood of service. And there's one very like outstanding incident that occurred in my life about 20-something years ago, like when I approached my initiating spiritual master for Shanta. Like I told him, like, I'd been chanting for so many years, and I think I have gotten to a point where I feel in order to make further progress, I need the help of a guru, a specific guru, and I offered obeisances. And when I lifted my head up, like, he was also offering obeisances to me, like in that sense. And what he said was even more remarkable than what he did. He said that, the service of being a guru is not an easy one. It's not an easy one. But if you think that I will be able to serve you in this way, I'll be very happy to try. So here's the spiritual master expressing from his position that not that he is guru, that the person who is on the top of the totem pole, but expressing that mood that it is my desire to render service to you in this way. And that can be applied to any service. When we have to speak, it is our service to speak. When we have to listen in the class, that is our service at that time. When we have to play mridanga, it is our service to enhance the kirtan of the holy names. When is our service to chant kirtan, It is our service that we are leading the community of devotees and offering the service to Krishna. When we are offering arati on the altar, it is not that everybody is looking at me, but on behalf of the entire congregation, I have been the one elected to perform this service on their behalf. So it's not that I am doing it, but I am simply the instrument for offering the service of everybody here to the deities, to the holy name, to the assembled devotees. I think that if we meditate more like that, when we have to execute different services, and that comes even as, I think it can be applied to any service, like management service, if we have to teach a class, if we have to be a student in a class, if we have to be a parent, if we have to be, a child, whatever, it can apply. Why am I doing it? For whose pleasure ultimately am I doing it? Is that all right? Hare Kirtan, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So as you were speaking, I was just, when you were talking about this point of whenever problems come up, we should try to always see the bigger picture, not just see the problems and allow the problems to enter our consciousness and all that. And then later on you went on to say how, well, Indra, after some time, he wanted to go to Krishna to ask for forgiveness or to apologize. And, it's very clear that Indra, he offended Krishna, but he also offended all the devotees, the Brajabasis, cohort boys. He offended Govardhan, by, striking with the thunder and lightning and all that. But he didn't go to those devotees specifically. How do we understand, how do we know that he was forgiven by those devotees as well? He went to Krishna, who means, we know Krishna is like, means give shelter and protection to all the devotees, but like, sometimes it says that if we offend a devotee, we need to approach a devotee directly, per se. I don't know if you can comment on that.
So specifically, want me to comment from the position of Indra and that specific pastime, or the question, which is I think an underlying question, what you're asking, is how do we take care of offenses that we did to devotees unknowingly, or that we may not be able to approach so many devotees simultaneously?
Yes, that's the point. How do we deal with it? We offend so many devotees, but first thing, we do not recognize it, and we don't know how can we deal with that.
Well, one point, if when we chant the holy name we find it difficult, or we are not emotionally moved, it means we are offending Vaishnavas, full stop. The fact that we don't experience ease of chanting and ecstasy in chanting, it means that there are offenses. And therefore, like one of the things that we do, when we chant sincerely, trying to avoid the offenses, then Krishna gives us an intuition as to who we would have offended. That is one point. We get that sense that, I didn't deal with this person the right way. He may feel, and let me approach them. That's one point. And in the ordinary course of dealings, we may not be aware of who we offend. An offense is a perception that they feel offended. We would not have offended, but they felt that they would have been dealt with badly. So that also affects us. And therefore, one of the most important things that we do before chanting the holy name, and especially this is done in the temples, what is the last thing we do before we begin to focus on our japa meditation, Sachi? There's a particular mantra we recite before we begin to meditate on our japa.
Is it Vancha Kalpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhu
That's the one. Vancha Kalpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo. That prayer is a prayer that reminds us that we are supposed to be the servants of the Vaishnavas. And therefore, the only way we can actually approach the holy name is if we do not offend the Vaishnavas. And by meditating on that, then that sort of helps us with the offenses that we are not aware that we would have committed, that don't come to the forefront. And on the other side of it, when acting generally, I find it most useful to not just, like sometimes we say it's an offense to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to the propagation of the holy name of the Lord, right? Like we refer to the offense in the negative. It is an offense to blaspheme, to speak ill, to hurt the feelings of the devotees, and so on. What is the opposite of that? And to glorify the devotees. The opposite of that is to serve the devotees. The opposite of that is to offer care to the devotees, like that. And when we have that mood, and it has to be practiced, it may not be something that comes naturally for everybody, but we have to develop that mood of finding a devotee with whom we have genuine difficulty in dealing with, and searching our heart and offering praise to that person. Rather than finding the faults, it's easy to find faults in persons that we don't like or who we have difficulty dealing with. And it's very easy to find praise for persons we naturally have a good relationship with, is it not? But it's very purifying for the consciousness when we go out of our way to find the good things about devotees with whom we have difficulty dealing with. And when we do that, it helps us to be mindful of offenses to Vaishnavas in the positive sense. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhu, that's okay.
Okay. I think it's just about 12 o'clock now. Maybe time for the arti.
Yes, so once again, we'd like to thank you very much, Shanta Vigraha Prabhu, for making yourself available and willing to, as usual, to to render this service. It was so nice to hear from you. So many wonderful points. How we can be more cautious in terms of our Vaishnava dealings, and so many direct lessons that we can learn from the pastime of the Govardhan Leela, which today we are observing. This wonderful pastime, Krishna would have enacted this pastime. So thank you once again, and we'll continue our program with the Artik ceremony. Artik will be performed to Giriraj and simultaneously to our Lordship here, Shri Paramakaranitai Gaurachandra. So thanks to all the devotees. Please stay on for those who are joining on the virtual platforms. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jai Shri Paramakaranitai Gaurachandra ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai.
Gauravani pracharine nirvishesha shunyavadi paschatya deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi, Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Shri Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Gaura Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jaya Nitai Gaura Chandra, Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya, Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya, Nitai Gaura Chandra. Jaya Parama Karuna Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya, Parama Karuna Nitai Gaura Chandra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Govardhan Dhari Jaya Govardhan Dhari Jaya Govardhan Dhari Jaya Parama Karuna Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya Parama Karuna Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribol Gaura Haribol
Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Shtutar Sarashishimar His Divine Grace Isi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Vibhuti Fondaracharya His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Shtutar Sarashishimar His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिर गोवर्धन की जय श्री मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय गंगामाय जमुनामाय की जय भक्ति देवी की जय श्रीमती तुलसी देव महारानी की जय श्री वराड हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Books Distribution Ki Jai, Brihat Mridanga Ki Jai, Shri Shri Paramakarnitai Gaur Chandra Ki Jai, Shri Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Most Auspicious Govardhan Puja Ki Jai, Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, All glories to the assembly of devotees. All glories to the assembly of devotees. All glories to the assembly of devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashacha Deshatarini. Namaste Nada Shingaya. Namaste Nada Pralada Lada Dhaine. Hiranya Kashe Purvaksha. Shilantanakana Kalaini. Ito Nrsimha Parato Nrsimha. Yato Yamitato Nrsimha. Bahir Nrsimha Ridhahe Nrsimha. Nada Shingamarim Sharanam Praparim. Tavakara Kamala Varenaka Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Tanu Bringa Keshavarita Narahare Rupa Jai Jagarisha Hare Jai Jagarisha Hare Jai Jagarisha Hare Tavakara Kamalavare Naka Adbhuta Shringa Jaya Nrshingare 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 Jaya Nrshingare Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad. Shri Nrsimha Bhagwan ki jai. Bhakta Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna. So we want to thank all the devotees who would have joined in and participated in today's morning celebration of Govardhan Puja. Hare Krishna. So please take prasad to your fullest satisfaction.